Hey there, beer enthusiasts. Welcome to Beers That FITZ, the podcast where we dive into the world of craft beer, one brewery at a time. And I'm your host, Rob Fitz, and I'm here to bring you closer to the people behind your favorite brews. In each episode, we sit down with the passionate owners and talented brewmasters who make the magic happen, exploring their stories, inspirations, and unique flavors they bring to the table. Whether you're a seasoned beer connoisseur or just starting your craft beer journey, Beers That FITZ has something for everyone. So grab your favorite brew, sit back, and let's toast to good company and great beers. This is Beers That FITZ, where every story fits perfectly into the world of craft beer. Sláinte. Hey there, beer lovers. Welcome to the very first episode of Beers That FITZ. Today we're kicking things off with a fantastic guest. Hannah and I sat down with Mark Avery, the owner and head brewer of 2 Weeks Notice, a brewery in West Springfield, Massachusetts. Mark's journey began with a simple home brewing kit, a Christmas gift from his wife, which sparked a passion that grew into something incredible. After winning several beer competitions, Mark knew it was time to turn his hobby into a career. He coined the name 2 Weeks Notice as a nod to his dream of quitting his desk job to pursue brewing full-time. Mark has turned 2 Weeks Notice into a beloved part of the Western Massachusetts beer scene. Today we'll dive into the brewery's story, the challenges Mark faced, and the amazing beers he's crafting. So grab a pint, settle in, and join us as we explore the story of 2 Weeks Notice with Mark Avery. Let's get started. Thank you so much for joining us today on Beers That FITZ.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I'm glad to be the first. This is amazing.
Whoop, whoop.
Yes, inaugural.
I'm never first in anything.
He popped the cherry for Beers That FITZ.
Yes.
Inaugural episode.
Sweet.
Mark, what inspired you to start your brewery, and what was the journey like?
It was a very long journey to get here. I guess as far as inspiring, I think when the craft beer scene was starting to really, I don't want to say explode, but when like Alchemist was starting to really get noticed, and like early on of like the Treehouse stuff, things like that. That's like, even though many years before that I was already like really into craft beer, or I was trying to find as much craft beer. I guess they called them microbreweries back then,
Brewing in your garage.
Yeah, so I was always searching for different beers that weren't like the domestic beers that you could find anywhere. So like Sierra Nevada, that was like very much like a, that's like, I always call that my desert island beer, stuff like that. So always into stuff like that, and this was like the late 2000, like 2007, 2008 is when I really started like on that journey. And I watched it's really kind of nerdy, but I was watching the History Channel, and they had like the history of brewing. And
Ooh.
I just like was like home one day and I watched it, and I was like, that's the coolest shit I've ever seen. And I just found it so interesting. And then for like years, I was like, man, I would like, and I actually was like, this is when I was living in New Hampshire, and I was like trying to get a job at breweries to do anything. Like, it didn't matter, packaging, whatever. And, nobody would hire me. Anyway, I ended up moving back home to Boston, wanted to start home brewing because I knew that was like starting to become a very like more popular thing, mainstream, I guess. And then, spent years just finding beers, things like that, and then met my wife. We eventually left Boston, moved out here to Western Mass, and then she bought me my first homebrew kit. It was like a Mr. Beer, like homebrew kit that you get at like Kohl's in like the checkout line. So that was the first thing that I ever like used or brewed with, and then it just was one of those things that it just like caught me. They say like you catch the bug,
right?
And
yeah.
I just from that point I just was like obsessed with everything about brewing. And then I just started like buying more equipment, started doing like all grain stuff, and then eventually started like entering homebrew contests, and then we won Worthy.
Yeah.
She's probably like 7 years ago now at this point.
So pre-pandemic.
Yeah, 2017 maybe? Maybe? No, probably 2016, I think, but I don't remember. But yeah, and we were already kind of I knew when I was entering, those homebrew contests and like I was brewing a lot. I was working like a desk job, sitting in a cube all day, doing sales, stuff like that, answering emails, the worst. But
Yeah, you don't look like a guy that sits in a cubicle.
yeah, I'm not that at all. I'm not that at all. But, when I got out here, I had to get a job and, as part of the family. And so I got a job. And actually, I didn't hate the people I worked with. Like, I actually loved all the people I worked with. So it was like a little bit bittersweet when I did leave the company. But the job sucks. Sales, it's just the worst. But so, yeah. And then I kind of like went out to dinner with my wife. And I was like, I think I want to open up a brewery. And she was like, Jesus Christ. She's like, come on. But she was like, I think she saw the passion and like how much I loved it. And it was probably the one thing since we had been together that besides music, I was a musician for years too, but that was the thing where I think she noticed like, okay, he's pretty serious about this. Yeah. He doesn't really take a lot of things seriously. And then she was like, okay, well, if we want to do this, it's going to be the hardest thing you've ever done.
Oh, yeah.
And you're going to have to bust your ass. And I was like, I want to, because this is like, I'm so passionate about this. So that kind of kicked off the journey into 2 Weeks Notice. And then we had won a few homebrew contests. And then we decided to take the leap and found a partner. And we looked around for spots. And then we kind of stumbled upon this one that had been like vacant for 2 years before we even bought it.
What was this before?
Angie's Tortellinis.
Okay.
It was a tortellini factory.
Really?
Yeah, which if you look in the brew room and the brew house, all the floors, they're all like food grade floors, like tile. And
that's good.
And they already had drains.
Beautiful.
So I was like, that's like half the thing we have to spend our money on. That's perfect.
I didn't know Angie's was local, so that's interesting.
Yeah, they left here and then went to Westfield. So they were here first. Yeah,
Wow.
so. Some of the family still comes in here every once in a while. Yeah. But, so this place was vacant for it was like Angie's Tortellinis for years. Then it was like another food processing plant at one point. This whole place was just freezers. Like everything was a freezer.
Right, of course.
So we did a lot of demo. So, yeah, we found this place. Spent pretty much 8 to 9 months just demoing, and then
you do it all yourself? Or
we did a lot of the demo ourselves. Yeah, I spent the whole summer just sweating through shirts.
Yeah,
and, just spent the whole summer here into October, and then I brewed my first commercial batch October 30th of 2017.
Okay.
Yep. So coming up on almost 6 years now of being a commercial brewer, but. Yeah, and then so that beer was Resignation, which was that was the beer I won all my homebrew contests with and everything like that.
What was the first beer that you made with that kit your wife bought you? Was that it, or was it?
It was like I can actually remember the homebrew batch that I made. That was the first really good one where I was like, holy shit, this is it. The homebrew kit was like, it was awful.
Yeah.
But I made it, and it was carbonated, and I was like, oh, it was like a pale ale or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. But it was like, partial, it was like this like gross like molasses looking stuff that came out of a can and all this stuff. So, no like temperature control and all this stuff. So I made a batch, and then it was actually my first all grain batch.
Okay.
I bought a cooler and all this stuff, mashed in, did all that stuff, and then, dry hopped it, did all that stuff, and then I remember like putting into bottling it back in the day, and then I remember cracking that first one and being like, "Oh my god, I can't believe I made this!"
Right.
Like I did it.
And that's the Resignation.
That was like an early version of it.
Okay,
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
All right.
And then Resignation just became like I literally homebrewed that beer. I don't know, 80 times probably. Between the time I started homebrewing to being professional. Yeah. So
fine tuning it. And
yeah, I just wanted to make like a very solid New England IPA, and I just like constantly brewed that beer.
Nice.
But yeah.
So you had mentioned what the brewery name is, 2 Weeks Notice here. How did you choose that name for your brewery, and is there a special story behind it?
Yeah. So after I had that conversation with my wife, we were both like, well, it's, and it's funny thinking about this back then, but I was like, man, there's so many breweries now. Now there's like 1,000 more than at that point. But I was like,
Of course.
it's got to be a name that is not necessarily catchy, but relatable for people.
Right.
And not like campy and like, whatever. Like I didn't want it to be weird. So I just happened to be, I left my job for the day, like punched out, was driving home, and I was like going to pick my son up at daycare, and I was like, God, I can't wait to give my fucking 2 weeks. And I was like, wait a minute. Immediately like Googled it, like hopped on my phone, went to Untapped. I'm like, are there any breweries named 2 Weeks Notice Brewing?
Yeah.
Like did all that, and there wasn't. And there was like some like maybe there was like a beer called 2 Weeks Notice.
Right.
But there was no breweries, and I was like, holy crap. So I immediately didn't buy the name, but like got the rights to it, I guess, or whatever
You buy the domain.
the domain, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Did that immediately because I'm like, I don't want anybody to. I'm like, I can't believe nobody took this.
Yeah. So you copyrighted the name, bought the
Copyrighted
domain.
the name, correct.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So then we've had it ever since. And,
Right.
But yeah, that was really the story behind it. And then like people were like, holy crap, that's such a great idea, or a name, And then obviously a lot of those early on beers were very like, and still some of them are all like very like work related.
Yeah.
Names and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, that's a really cool story.
Yeah.
And looking at some of your cans and everything, you got some really unique designs, and I like how like resignation. It shows someone resigning at their job. You know, it really goes with that whole 2 weeks notice kind of theme.
Yep.
I love it.
Yep.
What's the most challenging aspect of running a brewery?
Whew. That's a very loaded question. It was different 2 years ago. It's different now, So it depends. Like now, the hardest part is, I think, really getting people into your tap room. If that's your focus, like if your tap room is your focus, right now it's pretty tough to get people in. So that's a pretty tough aspect of trying to have maintaining. We do have a lot of great like regulars and like Mug Club members and stuff like that are here pretty much on a weekly basis, almost every day.
Yeah.
But getting new people in, that's definitely a hard thing to do right now within the industry itself as a whole. But then, like costs are like the amount that we brew, it's not cheap to do that.
Right.
So the amount like our EverSource bill is wild because
of course
we're running water, we're running electricity, we're doing all that. So the cost of everything, and as far as like raw goods like grain, those and hops, that stuff's kind of all, in the middle of the road. It's not like I'm not like, oh my god, the grain prices are out of control now. It's all pretty standard stuff. That's not bad. It's really just the cost of running everything and like electricity and all that stuff. That's the stuff that is like skyrocketed. So that's the hardest part of dealing with everything.
You mentioned, grain and hops and stuff like that. How do you source your ingredients, and do you have a special partnership with any local farms or suppliers or anything like that?
So a majority of our grain we buy through BSG, Brewer Supply Group, Raw. They're out of Minnesota. That's where I get most of my base grain and stuff like that. But I have worked with, I do work a lot with 4 Star Farms up in Northfield.
Okay.
I was actually just there Friday, doing like a brewer's day. If you use their hops, you get to like go hang out and like walk through the hop fields, and they do like a lot of it's really
that's
really
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 cool.
cool.
Yeah.
How does it smell up there?
It's amazing. Yeah. And they have such a great tap room too. Like the tap room is just gorgeous, and Chris, the head brewer there, he's an amazing guy too. So, which he brews every beer that's brewed there is brewed with just their hops, which is crazy to me. Like I'm like, oh my god, I don't think I could do that. Like, and his beers are just phenomenal. So. We use a lot of those hops. We have used some hops from Champlain Valley up in Vermont as well. Really great hops from those guys too. So a lot of the grain, it's tough. There's not really any super, like there is Valley Malt, and I've used those guys before. They're really great too. It's just, with the amount that I need, I usually just go through BSG, and it's always very... quality wise, it's
consistent.
It's consistent across the board, really, with what I use.
Yeah,
for the most part.
That's good. That's good. What role does sustainability play in your brewing process?
I think it's. I look at breweries like The Alchemist up in Vermont, who they have basically like their own water treatment plant within there, and they capture all their CO2 from fermentation and all this stuff. And I'm like, that's so cool.
That's real cool.
I wish I could do that. All that stuff costs a lot of money.
Oh, definitely.
You know what I mean? So that's really like, I look at things like that, and I'm like, I really do want to get to that at some point for this brewery for sure, because it's just like, I care about the environment too. You know what I mean? So for us, it's really like, I'd love to really lean into that at some point. And then as far as like our grain, our spent grain, that goes to a farmer, Ruby Ranch up in Belchertown.
Oh, nice.
So that gets, the circle of life.
Yeah.
It goes to his pigs or his cows or anything like that. So
I love that breweries do that.
Yeah.
Like the mash stuff they send off. That's great.
yeah, and he's awesome. He's a great dude. So
Yeah, excellent. Can you share an interesting or funny story that happened during the brewing process? Whether it was here or when you were first brewing in your garage.
I have actually a really good one of when I was home brewing at home, and my wife loves this story as well, because we were I was putting all my beers in like the glass carboys, and I would put them in milk crates, so it was like easy to grab, and because they're glass and they're like hard, you don't want it to slip out of your hand. So I'd put them in a milk crate, and then I'd carry the milk crate up to my like kitchen to like transfer the beer or whatever. And we were like kind of in a fight. We were like kind of like talking to each other, like, and I don't know if I yelled something, or I don't know what it was, but I went to take the glass carboy out of the milk crate, and when I did that, the bottom of the glass carboy stuck to the milk crate.
Okay.
And it literally snapped the glass carboy, and 5 gallons
Oh,
of
geez.
just beautifully smelling dry hop beer just all over my kitchen floor. And my wife was just like, well, that's what you get. And I was like, shit. You're right.
Karma's a bitch.
Yeah. I've dropped a gasket like in the fermenter before.
Yeah.
Like when I'm like pitching yeast and stuff. I'm like, just dumb stuff like that. It happens every once in a while. It's like the time. It's like the one time when you're like, you're tired and you're not paying attention or something, and you're just like, well, just drop that.
Yeah.
Well, I got another gasket.
And is that batch ruined?
No, it was fine. It was fine because it's just like it's a black like gasket that's safe. It's all that. So it was fine. But I was worried. I was more worried about like it getting caught in like a valve.
Oh, yeah.
And like trying to transfer the beer and it getting stuck or something, but it didn't. So I was good. And the beer was fine. Can I tell you which beer that was?
What kind of advice would you give to someone looking to start their own brewery?
Whatever your budget is, triple it. That's like right off the bat. I guess it kind of depends on what you want to do, like whether you want to go small or large or like production or you know what I mean. But for the most part, make sure you have a lot of friends who will work for free, because I had a lot of friends who helped me out at the beginning of this for sure, and actually I still have some people that help us packaging and stuff like that. But as far as budget goes, and it will be the hardest thing you've ever done. There's going to be times where you absolutely want to quit, but I will say, if you get through it, it's like the best payoff of all time. So it's not for everybody. I don't think it's for everybody, and I think it takes a certain mindset and like amount of hard work to really. If you're like, I guess if you're funded and you have millions of dollars and like you can hire a bunch of people to do all this stuff, that's cool. But that's not really a reality for a lot of people. So, it's going to be really tough. But if you can get through the hard obstacles, it's well worth everything. So,
That's good.
Yeah.
So, Mark, how do you approach beer festivals and events? Do you have like a favorite festival experience? I know I always see you at the Worthy and stuff, and you're doing the Eastern States Exposition, which is the biggie here in Western Mass. So, you have a favorite one, and how do you approach them?
Yeah, Worthy is always a great one. That's always a fun one because it's you're seeing all your buds and your friends and stuff. It's kind of like a cool hangout for a lot of us breweries locally here.
That's probably the biggest one we have.
Out here, for sure. Oh, I'm the worst. Yeah, Worthy is great. It is definitely the biggest one out here, for sure. We've done We did a Mass Brewers Guild one at Cyclorama in Boston.
Okay.
Which was really cool. Very cool venue. It's
Yeah.
like a big circular venue.
So it's inside.
It was inside, yeah. It was in like April. It was like the beginning of April, so it's still a little cool out. So that was a good one. Yeah, and then as far as like going, I always, especially like Worthy or any of those early summer ones, yeah, like Whip City in Westfield, that's always a good one too. I always like, as far as choosing the beers, it's always like weather dependent. I feel like I always like bring beers that are, I'm not gonna bring like a stout to Worthy in June when it's 90 degrees out or
Right.
something. You know what I mean? So I'll do, I'll bring like our Mexican lager with lime or Red Hot Moon, the sour, or something like that I know is like a big summer crushing beer. And those tend to go obviously the fastest.
Right.
And then I always bring like one of our IPAs or something like that. But yeah, I usually tend to like, depending on when it is, like we're doing one in October, like an Oktoberfest outside, and that's obviously I'm bringing like our Oktoberfest, our pumpkin beer, all that stuff. So I always kind of do it weather, or I guess, weather dependent on when it's going to be. But
Where's that festival going to be?
Brimfield?
Okay.
Yeah, that one is, I met the gentleman at Worthy actually,
Okay.
and it's like the Brimfield Oktoberfest. It's kind of similar to Worthy, where it's commercial brewers and home brewers as well. So,
And what's the date for that?
October 12th.
October 12th. Okay. Yeah. So if you're in the Brimfield, Massachusetts area, October 12th,
Yeah.
definitely.
A lot of awesome
Definitely come
breweries. A lot of awesome breweries. A lot of great home brewers on it as well.
Yeah. Excellent. How do you decide which beers to release seasonally or even year round? Keep them on tap.
I will say that the tap room does drive a lot of sometimes my my production schedule for sure, because I like to keep something on for everybody. So yeah, we have the mainstays, most the IPAs, PTO Pilsner, things like that, and then I will usually, like, I brewed our pumpkin beer like 2 or 3 weeks ago, so that's coming out next week. So I always kind of. And it feels like it's getting earlier and earlier every year. At this point.
It's
I'm like, I should have had this out August 1st. And I'm like, no, it's too early.
It's August 23rd right now as we record, and Starbucks just released their pumpkin yesterday.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Pumpkin yesterday.
Shipyard Pumpkin was out like August 1st. I'm pretty sure.
Jeez, yeah. It is getting earlier.
That's just how it is now, and it's like because there are so many. I think you gotta like. The earlier you can get it out, the more you can get it to people quicker,
Yeah. How do you engage with the local community, and what role does it play with your brewery's identity?
We definitely work a lot with Westside directly. What's really cool is we have an awesome relationship with the mayor.
And if you're not from around here, West Side is what we call West Springfield.
West Springfield, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Sorry, I
West
forget.
Springfield, Massachusetts.
You're like West Side of California.
Yeah.
So we have a really great relationship with Will, the mayor. So we tend to do a lot of and my wife is on the board of the West Springfield Boys and Girls Club as well.
Excellent.
So we tend to do a lot of things with them to help raise money, and like we do the Flutes and Flavors, which is coming up in September as well. So we're always kind of engaged with that. We recently just started working with the West Springfield Public Library as well. So we do a book club now.
Oh, very nice. So you go to the library, or
they come here?
They do the big book
that's
club
awesome.
here. Okay.
Yeah, it's like every last Thursday of every month.
Okay.
So it's once a month.
All right.
And then we did, we teamed up with them and then Habitat for Humanity and raised a bunch of money for them as well. It was Drag Bingo. That's what it was.
Excellent.
Yeah, so we did that. We're always trying to figure something out where we can either give back or raise money for certain things. But yeah, obviously very West Springfield driven.
Yeah.
To just help out because they've been, amazing to us. As a brewery. So.
Yeah, and you got the rainbow flags in here.
Yeah,
and,
man, we're always
very LGBTQ
we're
friendly.
Yeah, we're all about that, and that maybe I think we were talking about this before we started, but sometimes it rubs people the wrong way, and sometimes I don't really give a shit.
Yeah,
so it just is what it is, and I don't know, man. I have people and family that are in that community, and I love them, and that's. I care about that community. So
and that's good to know.
Yeah. And I feel like we're very like we've kind of gotten that definitely that stigma here in the tap room that like I know that a lot of people that come in here feel safe and feel welcome every time they come in here, and that's like a very important thing to me.
Yeah,
sure.
I'm actually wearing one of your T-shirts that you guys released for Pride Month. I think it was last year.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah, and you guys got these for the Pride Parade.
Yeah,
or was it just for Pride Month?
I think we did. Yeah, it was for Pride Month, and then we did have a Pride party, I believe.
Okay.
That year as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and we did one this year too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Excellent.
Oh, okay. So what's one thing you wish more people knew about craft beer in general or your brewery specifically?
I think as far as craft beer, or maybe even just us, like I think when people see like social media and like beer releases and stuff, I think a lot of people don't realize like we run pretty lean. It's pretty much me doing almost everything between brewing, packaging, cleaning, all that stuff. So I think a lot of people don't realize like how much, I guess, hard work goes into the pint of beer that you're drinking.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's easy for people to just like check it in on Untapped and be like, "Oh, this beer stinks." It's like, it's not much, whatever. But, and I think like, not that stuff ever hurts my feelings.
Yeah.
Because beer is just, it's subjective. So
Right.
it is what it is. But everybody has their opinions on beer. But I just like, sometimes I look at that stuff and I'm like, man, you don't even know like half of the shit I go through to just get that beer out or whatever it is, So I think a lot of times, for me personally, that's how I feel. I don't think people realize like the hard work that goes in, not just us, but I think there's a lot of craft breweries that run, it's like two people doing everything for the most part, So, and then as far as us, like we have, between my wife, she runs a full-time gig. She has her full-time job and runs a business herself.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, and then our two other partners, Nate and Darren, they also run another business as well. So we're all over the place.
Of course.
You know what I mean? So it's everybody coming together to get everything done for the most part.
Yeah.
But that's kind of where we're at for the most part.
Nice. Can you describe your brewing philosophy and, what sets your beer apart from others?
Yeah. It's funny. Yeah. I think beer needs to have a feel. Like you need to feel that beer, as like weird and wonky as that sounds, like hippie, whatever. I kind of am a hippie, but it is what it is. I just feel like for me personally, I feel a very strong connection to brewing beer. Like I fucking love brewing beer. It's like my favorite thing to do all the time. If I only had to brew beer, I would be like, not that I'm unhappy, but it makes me so happy to just be in that brew house, sometimes just by myself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And brewing beer. I always say it's like my zen. It's my meditation.
Yeah.
It's like, even though it's like loud and hot and sweaty and, but it's just like, I don't know. I'm just able to focus on the beer. And I always feel like you're putting intentions into things.
Yeah.
And I always put intentions into every batch of beer. And I hope that comes out in the final product.
Right.
It's your love language, it seems, because like every single glass or pint that gets poured, it's like, this is a little piece of Mark, who I am as
For
a company.
sure.
And
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And I think that's true. And I think it's easy too for a lot of breweries. Like if you're like a shift brewer at a production facility, like obviously that's like, you're just like punching in, punching out. It's tough to, you know what I mean? So I feel very fortunate where I'm still very much in control of every beer that comes out, because not a lot of people are able to do that. So I'm very fortunate to have that, and I'm able to, like you said, like really put the blood, sweat, and tears into every batch of beer that I make. And then as far as like, brewing itself, it takes a lot of focus, and like for me, I'm always tweaking stuff and doing different times on different things, or different fermentation profiles, or different water profile, or so I'm always kind of tweaking stuff, because at the end of the day, you always want to make sure you're putting out the best product no matter what.
So do you have like a standard recipe for your staple ones, or are you
Yes.
always fine-tuning those?
Yeah, I always keep, so for the most part, not a lot changes in those. It's usually like a water profile, or a different yeast that I'll use, or something like that, or maybe more or less hops in the dry hop or in the kettle, or you know what I mean. But for the most part, yeah, the base of every beer has pretty much stayed the same.
Okay.
For the most part, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
How do you come up with new beer recipes and flavor profiles?
A lot of it is like, I'll go out and drink beers, and I'll like drink a beer and be like, oh man, that's really good. Like, wonder how they got that, or like I'm just like me. Sometimes it's just like looking for a certain flavor profile. I've kind of explained this to people before. I'll be like, I'll have a flavor profile in mind. Don't ask me what it is, but I'm like, I'll drink it and be like, that's it, or that isn't it. You know what I mean? I gotta like tweak it. Can't tell you what it is. It's just like in my brain.
Right.
I'm like, that's not right. I need to like either, pull back a little bit on this or add more of this, or
You have a sixth sense almost.
yeah, and
the
it's
beer.
like it probably sucks for everyone else because they're like, what the hell are you talking about? You're an idiot. But yeah, so I can be inspired by a beer that I drink. Like I drank like a Helles that I like blew my mind, and I was like, I need to brew a Helles. I want to brew a Helles, and I brewed a Helles. And we really, so a lot of it's like that. I'll get inspired, or I'll drink, like a Sierra Nevada and be like, oh, this is so like clean and crisp.
Yeah.
I want to do like a West Coast that's very like clean and crisp, and like not necessarily a Sierra Nevada knockoff, but just like something along those lines.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that tends to be, or like I'll see like a brand new hop that hits the market or something, and like they always have like the descriptions like mango, passion fruit.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, does it really have all that? But,
Yeah.
so sometimes it'll be that, and I'll be like, all right, let me see if I can pull that flavor and aroma out of that hop and put it into a new beer or something like that.
So do you do a lot of traveling to go to other breweries that are not in this area to find new ones?
Yeah, sometimes I tend to like I always go. I'm like a staunch like Vermont beer is the best beer guy.
Yeah.
In Maine's really good too.
Maine's
Of course.
good.
Yeah, so,
especially up in Portland.
yeah, it's just like, so I do that every once in a while. I'll feel like stagnant, and I'll be like, I gotta go
You need inspiration.
drink some beer somewhere
Yeah.
or something like that. You know what I mean? And it usually will like kind of revitalize me and be like, okay, I'm ready to like attack this new beer, or So I'm always looking for inspiration for sure.
Excellent.
It's an art form for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brewing is like the best. It's like the perfect dance between inspiring, whether it be, it's like science and art
Yeah.
combined together, and like I don't think there's not a lot of things that are like that in the world.
Yeah. And it's good for people to know too, because you can't just like throw a bunch of stuff, in one of these big
You
kettle
can.
things.
Some people just do that, and they're not great.
right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, especially going to the Worthy and you go into the home brew section.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some really good brews over
yeah,
there.
absolutely.
But then there's some like,
yeah.
what were you thinking?
Yeah, for sure.
So-
Yeah, and I'm like, I'm such a home brewer at heart still. Like I host like the Sparge Homebrew Club out of here, like Western Mass. They have like a club meeting here, like probably once every couple months. They're coming in September for a brew day to just like
nice.
hang out with me, watch what I do, and then they're gonna take like 5 gallons of the beer that I produce.
Oh, really?
And then take it home and like put their spin on it, whether they
nice.
do a different yeast or dry hop it or not dry hop it,
So you're going to create the base.
yeah.
Okay.
They're going to take I think they're actually going to take like 10 gallons of PTO Pilsner, which is a very clean, straightforward beer. It's called wort, which is like the sugar water prior to fermentation. So they're going to take like 10 gallons of wort, take that home and split it between all the members, and they're going to kind of like do their own thing and then bring it back. And
Nice.
We'll like sit around and drink it and talk about it and nerd out on beer and stuff. That's the stuff that,
You do partnerships with other breweries, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we do collabs and all that stuff for sure, yeah. So, yeah, and that's a huge part of the industry that I love as well, is the collaborations and the friendships.
Yeah.
I always say, like, collaborations are great because you come out of it typically learning something new from either another brewery and new friends.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's nothing better than that.
Right.
Like, I'm always looking to learn more. Like, I'll be like, why do you guys do that? Or, they have their own way of doing it. And I'll be like, that's pretty cool. Or like,
So these, sorry, I interrupted you.
No, it's okay.
Are these guys that come in and you're gonna give them the base? Are these guys kind of like your prodigies almost? Like they're just kind of learning from you?
No, they're just like in a homebrew club. They're just like
Okay.
a bunch of passionate homebrewers, just like I was. They just happen to have their own club where they pay dues and like.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, no, and then
too.
they'll do like they have a big brew system, like it's like I say big, it's like a 20-gallon brew system that they all like they'll all brew on it and like again take 5 gallons each and like
Oh, wow.
do their
Okay.
own thing or they'll have like they'll all brew the same base beer and then dry hop it different or you know what I mean? So it's always like they're doing cool things with each other just because they are passionate
That's cool.
about homebrewing and I'm like I love that.
Yeah.
That's like my favorite thing ever. I was like, I wish I had a homebrew club when I was homebrewing.
That's cool. I didn't even know there was a homebrew club around.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Sparge, yeah, they're good dudes. Yeah, good group of guys.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Excellent. What's your favorite beer from your brewery and why?
Oh man. It's like asking your favorite kid.
I know.
Favorite kid. Luckily, I only got one, so he's the one. It's honestly, it depends. Sometimes I definitely see myself when I'm in the tap room. I lean more into like pilsners and lagers, just because I want to hang out and like have a few.
Yeah.
When I'm at home, I definitely drink my IPAs for the most part. Like I'll sit home and drink a couple like Westside Big Slides. I always do like what I tend to do is when we package that week, I'll probably take like a can or two home and week to week just kind of see, if they're up to quality of like how I like it or if I want to change anything or something like that. But yeah, I kind of drink each one all the time. So for the most part, you know what I mean? Like,
So you don't brew anything you don't like?
I do.
Okay.
There's 2 beers, and everybody gives me shit about it. But
What are those 2 beers?
there's a beer called Pink Slip that is a milkshake IPA, so it's got lactose in it.
Yeah.
And we add strawberry and mango, and people love it. And I'm like, I hate this beer so much.
It is good.
People,
It is good.
see, exactly, yeah. No, I get it. I have to like brew it soon because people like are literally like, when are you brewing Pink Slip again? I'm like, no, leave me alone. Because it's just like it's an expensive beer to make too. Between all the fruit and the lactose, it's just extra stuff that's added on. So it's an expensive beer to make. So that tends for me as a business owner. I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, do we have in the budget to make this goddamn?
Yeah.
beer? Oh, we don't. Sorry, guys.
Overhead.
Yeah. You know what I mean? And then only because I don't like pumpkin, I swore up and down my entire life I would never brew a pumpkin beer. And now we make a ton of pumpkin beer. So that's why it's called the saddest pumpkin, because it's like basically I always in the computer system I just write the saddest mark because I'm like that's what it's like that's what the fermenter says in the computer. But just because like it's not that I hate all the pumpkin beers, it's just like I don't like the flavor of pumpkin. It's just not my thing.
I'm
So
excited though for that one.
people love it. Yeah. Like we brewed the first year I did it, I only brewed a 10-barrel batch. It flew. I like released it late, like in like October. And then last year, I did 20 barrels of it. And this year, I'm probably going to do 30 to 40 barrels.
Oh,
so
wow.
it just keeps increasing. I'm like, God damn it.
Yeah.
So that will be out when you open next week on what, Wednesday?
Yes.
Okay.
It'll be out next week.
We'll be by on
Sugar
Wednesday.
rims for everybody.
I'm not a fan of the sugar rim.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of any, like, even for, like, margaritas.
Yeah.
I don't like a salted rim on
Oh, you
a
don't?
margarita.
Okay.
No. I'm like, just give me the drink.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's how I am with beer. But
Hannah loves the rims
I get it. I
at the
get
Big
it.
E. We go
Oh
to the
my
Big
God.
E. Everything has a rim on it.
I know, yeah. I know. I get it. It's fine.
I'm such a basic
No
white
hate.
chick when it
No.
comes to the biggie.
I got no hate for that. It is what it is. It's it's just not my thing.
So, can you share any exciting upcoming projects or new beer releases? Something that no one's tried before that new kind of releases.
Yeah, I have. So currently, I'm trying to think what I have in. I don't have anything in the tanks yet, but I have a beer that I have been wanting to do for a few years now that I'm finally gonna pull the trigger on. So I'm gonna be doing basically a giant stout,
Okay.
imperial stout, but like a double mash, like just monster of a beer because I've done like 8% Imperial Stout. We used to do one called Bumby that we don't really do anymore.
Hannah actually, she has
Like
a
my
question.
one question.
Oh, really?
If you want to ask it, or
I was gonna ask, when is Bumpy Love coming back?
I know.
It was like
man.
my favorite.
Really? That's so funny, man. I know. I get that. That's another beer that people ask me about. I just like. It's just so funny because stouts don't like move a lot, so I don't brew a lot of them.
yeah, I mean, it's a good winter beer.
It is, and I didn't do it last year. I don't know if it's just like my schedule didn't work out, and I didn't end up getting in a tank in time or whatever. Because I usually put it out in like November, and it kind of goes through like Thanksgiving and Christmas and all that stuff. So, So this year I went to Dark Lord Day out in Indiana, which is like Three Floyds. It's like their big giant Imperial Stout that they brew every year, and they have like a big metal fest for it.
Ooh,
It was like the funnest time of my life, but super inspired drinking those beers. And I was like, God damn, I got to do something like this. Because there's not really any, besides maybe Mark over at Great Awakening, there's not really anybody doing big Imperial Stouts.
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so I feel like there is a market for it around here anyway, locally. So I decided, and I've been like kind of like tinkering and writing the recipe for the last like 3 months.
Yeah.
Just like researching, writing it, removing stuff, or you know what I mean, like trying to figure out a way to get this beer up to 12% or something like that. You know what I mean? So I think I got it ready to roll, and I'm probably going to pull the trigger on that pretty soon. But I also got to figure out a name and a label. So
no name yet. Okay.
So yeah, there is an unnamed Imperial Stout at some point.
Do you still have was it a gentleman or woman that designed all these cans? Do you still have that person?
Eric, yep.
Eric, okay, yeah.
Eric
Do you
Clark.
still have Eric designing cans for you?
Sure do.
Okay.
Yeah, he just finished a big mural out on the patio here.
Oh, really? We'll have to take a look before we take off.
He's been doing it for like pretty much the whole summer. But yeah, he's the one who does all the major art stuff for us, all the labels. And actually Saturday we're doing a big, not like a reveal party, because if you sat on our patio, you've seen the progression of the mural, you know, but it's more of like a, kind of like an artist showcase. We're doing music and stuff on the patio and all that stuff. So in there too, if you look around the corner, all the labels are like up on the wall that he's done. Most of them he's done. Like we were discussing that like the other day. We're like, how many labels do you think you've done? Like, I gotta like go back and look, like count them up. But I think it's like, we're close to that 60 beer range, 60, 70 beers probably.
They're labels. So original. Like I see your labels and I know it's a 2 week beer without even seeing the name.
That was, and that was kind of by design, like I knew, again, that goes back to when we first started. When we were like in the planning stages of 2 Weeks Notice, we knew that we wanted to can the beer, and so I was like, well, we got to have like cool labels, right? So like, I don't know, I got to find some artist. And my brother-in-law, my wife's brother, he kind of grew up with Eric, or they knew each other. Just like Eric's a little older than my brother-in-law, but he used to like design the poster for like their dirt bike race every year.
Cool, yeah.
And he's like, oh, you should check out Eric Clark, dude. His designs are really cool. I didn't know him at the time. And so I got in touch with him, and he like brought his portfolio to like the building that we were like, it was like in shambles. And I just like looked at all the stuff. I'm like, this dude's perfect. And it was like a match made in heaven ever since. And he's like, we're super close with his family, and
that's awesome.
So he's become like, yes, he's the art designer, but he's also like a friend and like family to us too. So, so with him, I can be like, I don't know, like I'm trying to do this new beer. Like, you have any cool designs that you've been like sitting on? Sometimes it's that. Yeah. Sometimes it's like, I'll have a name and I won't have any. I'm like, you're the artist. I don't know anything about art. So
you'll show him a beer. If you don't have a name, you'll show him the beer or describe it to him.
Yeah. Or I'll just have a name.
He'll have a design for it, and then you come up with a name.
Sometimes if he's got a design that he's been like just sitting on, I'll be like, dude, that's sick.
That's really cool.
Should be like the new Oktoberfest label this year. It was like a T-shirt design he did for last year's Oktoberfest.
Okay.
We had a label for our Oktoberfest, and I hated it.
Yeah.
He did it, but it was a long story. He did it with a collaboration with an old partner.
Okay.
Cheeseball. But so I was like, dude, that should be the new label. Is that Oktoberfest thing? And he's like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. So that's the new label for that. So sometimes it's like that. Sometimes it's a name. Yeah. I'll have a name of a beer. and he'll just like light work is like kind of the newest one that we've done, and it's like has to do. It's a light, super light, like pale ale,
Yeah.
and basically it was like a like lawnmower beer they call it or
Okay.
whatever. And so, like the label for light work, it's like a dude like blowing all the grass off of like concrete and stuff.
Right,
You know what I mean? So it's like, and I was like, dude, that's perfect. So it's stuff like that where it could be that, or I can not have any idea, and he'll just sketch something.
Yeah.
He'll give me a few sketches. I'll be
Okay.
like, that one's cool. That one's So
Yeah.
it's always very collaborative.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
I will say that we have I don't think there's many breweries who have a tight relationship with their artists as much as we do, which I like. So,
Yeah, that's good. And that's one thing I love about your cans.
yeah.
They're pieces of art.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely, man.
So instead of just throwing the can in the recycling bin,
Yeah, a lot of people can't.
you save it.
Yeah, a lot of people, and it's cool. Like for him, he's like an art teacher. He teaches art for like 7th graders down in Connecticut.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I'm like, dude, like when we got into distro and like our beers are like going everywhere, I'm like, dude, look at this PTOs in Gillette Stadium, dude. Like, look at your
Wow.
design.
Yeah.
Your design
Wow.
isn't like his designs are like. I'm like, is it cool? It must be cool for you to like go to a store and see all your designs.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
it's cool for me when I see the beers.
Yeah.
But like, that's all your design, dude. Like, that's sick. And
That's
he's like,
cool.
He thinks it's the coolest shit too. So.
where do you see your brewery in the next 5 years? And, what kind of long-term goals do you have?
I think definitely just getting through this bubble burst of breweries because it's pretty tough out there right now. It's like the beer apocalypse going on right now. So definitely just surviving through what's going on right now is the main goal. As like dire as that sounds, it's not like that dire, but we gotta really be careful with how we choose how we proceed in the future. You know what I mean? And but I think overall, we're definitely pushing a lot of distribution for sure, and hopefully getting up to a certain barrelage that will get us to a very good like spot financially. For the most part, we're slowly ramping up to that, which is good. But that takes time, and it takes time, with people knowing our brand and things like that. So that's starting to really pick up, which is really good. And I think like for me, a lot of like long-term goals is I'm sending a lot of beers out to, awards, like trying to get awards for these. I'm like sending beers out to the GABF this year. I've never done that before. U.S. Beer Open, World Beer Cup, like all that stuff. I'm trying to get beers out so people will trying to really put us on the map for the most part, because when you win one of those awards, it's that's like
Right.
like winning the Super Bowl basically of a brewer. So
It's huge.
even if you just get a bronze, I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put that on a label like bronze award, 2024 bronze award winner, So that's really mine. Is so really fine tuning the beers and making sure they are like at the top like quality that I can make them.
Yeah.
Like for me, I feel like the beers are pretty dialed in now at this point. But there's always room for improvement, I feel like. So
Always room for improvement.
yeah, so like I'm sending Full Nelson out, and that beer is we're packaging it next week.
That's a good one.
Because I got to mail it out. I got to send it to Colorado, and I just tasted it out of the fermenter, and I'm like, God damn, this beer's dialed in.
So do you send them a can? How do you send that to
Yeah,
them?
they send them in cans.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm sending the Hellas, and I'm sending Full Nelson.
Okay.
So, I'm like, fuck it, let's go. I don't know. Let's give it a shot. What's the worst I could do?
Yeah.
I don't win. Whatever. Who cares? But then everybody gets to drink this awesome batch of Full Nelson.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
And so do they have like a panel that
Yeah, they
taste
have.
it?
Yeah, so I have to send X amount of cans because there's so many rounds of judging. So like the Hellas doesn't need as many because there's not as many people in that category. Whereas New England IPA, there's like 800 breweries probably or
geez,
something
yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
It's nationwide. So
Yeah.
who knows? But yeah, so I'm just trying to get our beers up to a point where, I just want to make the best beer in the world.
Of course.
Or the best beer that I can make for people to enjoy. And that's always been my goal. But now it's like really with the great equipment we have and the great partners we have, I'm able to really, really focus on that. So that's always going to be the main goal going forward for sure.
Yeah, excellent. All right, Mark, thank you so much for being on this.
Thank you guys.
Can you tell us where we can find you, not only your brewery, but like where we can pick you up. Can we pick you up just in the States? Is it
Yes.
across the pond?
So right now we are only distributed in Massachusetts.
Okay.
So we're from here all the way out east to the Cape. We're
Okay.
in a ton of package stores, which is great. We're on draft at a few places kind of throughout Boston as well now too. So I think, like I was saying before, as far as getting up to a certain barrelage of beer being made, that's going to also let us get into other states. So that's kind of the next step eventually, is like getting into Connecticut probably.
Yeah.
Probably be the first one, and then kind of go from that point. You know what I mean? But yeah, you have to have X amount of beer to get, not only keep everybody in Massachusetts happy,
Right.
but also venture out. So yeah, that's
And do you think you could handle that in here, or would you have to expand?
we could probably handle it for a little bit.
Okay.
It's going to be, we'd be packaging, we only package once a week right
Okay.
now. We'd probably have to start packaging twice a week. So that's, that's one of those, like, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it type
Right,
deal. Because that's, you're talking about hiring more people in and things like that, because I can't do all that myself. I'm like, if you want to do that, that's fine. We're going to have to hire some people though.
Yeah.
So I see my family once a week.
And where's the brewery or the tap room located?
We are in West Springfield, so we're on 110 Bosworth Street in West Springfield. We are kind of in a neighborhood, and I like that. It's weird. People drive by it all the time.
And what kind of hours do you have right now for the tap room?
Yeah, so we're open Wednesday through Sunday. Wednesdays we are 3 to 8, Thursday 3 to 9, Fridays 3 to 10, Saturdays are noon to 10, and Sundays noon to 6. Yeah, so, and then obviously we got the Big E coming up, so we do close during that.
Yeah, if you know, you know.
Yeah, if you know, from Western Mass for sure. So, but after that, we have, we got all sorts of events going. We got Oktoberfest coming up on the 6th or 7th, the first weekend in October.
Yeah.
That's our Oktoberfest. That's always a great time. Got a full band coming in doing all that, and then trying to think what else other.
Emo night.
We got Emo Night. How could I forget?
How could you forget?
How could I forget Emo Night? Yeah, that's become like one of the biggest events we do. We kind of do it quarterly at this point. So that's November 2nd, which is awesome. We got a band that plays emo covers and then a DJ after that. So
Nice. Yeah. Well, Mark, thank you very much for coming on the pod.
Yes,
we
thank
really
you.
appreciate the
first
time.
one,
and-
baby.
Yeah. Episode 1.
Number 1. Thank
All
you
right.
guys for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. Take it easy.
Cheers.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Beers That Fits. I hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the world of craft beer. Don't forget to rate, like, and subscribe if you enjoyed today's episode. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok for all updates, behind-the-scenes content, and more. And remember, new episodes drop every Thursday, so be sure to join us next week for another great conversation with the people behind your favorite brews. Until then, grab a pint, enjoy, and cheers to good times and great beers. Sláinte.